Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating story behind one of the most recognizable monuments in the entire world, Mumbai's iconic Gateway of India. We're going to explore not just its architectural grandeur, but the incredible, almost paradoxical history embedded right there in its stone. This is a story about empire, about reclamation, and honestly, about how the entire meaning of a physical space can just completely flip over the course of a few decades.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the origin story of this monument starts with a serious scramble. Picture this, it's December 1911. King George V and Queen Mary are arriving in Mumbai, which was called Bombay at the time, at Apollo Bandar. Now this was a massive deal. It was the very first visit of a British monarch to India, scheduled right before the famous Delhi Durbar. The Gateway of India was specifically commissioned to commemorate this exact grand royal arrival. It was supposed to serve as a triumphant entry point for the Emperor of India. But there was a pretty glaring problem when the royal couple actually stepped off their ship. The absolute absurd reality is that the first British monarch to ever visit India was greeted by a fake, temporary cardboard model. Seriously. The foundation stone wouldn't even be laid until March 1913, and actual construction didn't officially begin until 1915. Why? Because they first had to reclaim the land and build a seawall right where native fishing grounds used to be. So the great Emperor of India's grand entrance was essentially through a giant theater prop.
Part 1. Designing the gate. So the real design fell to a Scottish architect named George Whitett, and his final plan was sanctioned in 1914. He utilized a style known as Indo-Saracenic architecture. What this means in practice is basically a brilliant mashup of two worlds. The underlying shape is a classic octopylon, which is essentially a floor plan of 8 piers. It's very much like a Roman triumphal arch or the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, but Whitett layered this Western form with rich, indigenous elements. He drew heavy inspiration from 16th century Gujarati regional architecture, so it actually strongly resembles the beautiful mosque facades you'd find in Ahmedabad. Let's look at how this was actually built. This wasn't just some simple arch. It was constructed using locally sourced yellow basalt stone along with reinforced concrete. And the details are incredible. It features intricate stone latticework, known as jolly screens, which were brought all the way in from Gwalior just to decorate the smaller arches. Plus, it was highly functional. It was designed as a reception area, featuring these massive halls on each side of the central arch, and each one of those halls could hold 600 people. Now, bringing this vision to life, it was an expensive endeavor. The project cost 21.13 lakhs, which is borne entirely by the government. And there's a really fascinating quirk about that budget. They actually ran out of money. Because of a paucity of funds, the grand approach road that was supposed to lead right up to the monument was never built. That is exactly why, if you visit Mumbai today, you'll notice the gateway stands at a slightly awkward angle to the road leading up to it. But, despite that little budget hiccup for the road, they absolutely did not compromise on scale. The central arch stands at a staggering height of 26 meters, that's about 85 feet, with a central dome that is 15 meters in diameter. It faces right out towards the Mumbai harbor and the Arabian Sea. The whole thing was specifically designed so that it would be the very first structure visible to any important colonial personnel arriving in British India by ship. Part 2. The Empire's Final Exit. And just think about the timeline of events here, because it brilliantly illustrates the incredibly brief, totally paradoxical life of this monument under colonial rule. The king visits the cardboard model in 1911. The actual physical structure takes years of land reclamation and building, finally opening to the public on December 4th, 1924, when it's inaugurated by the viceroy. But just over 2 decades later, in 1947, India gained its independence, meaning this grand entrance, built specifically for the empire, was barely even utilized by them before the empire collapsed entirely. Instead, it actually became the site of their final exit. On February 28, 1948, the 1st Battalion of the Somerset Light Infantry became the last British troops to leave India. In this highly symbolic ceremony, they marched out through the very gateway that was built to welcome them in. They were accompanied by a 21-gun salute, officially signaling the end of the British Raj. Literally, the door they built to enter became the exact door they used to leave. Part 3. Reclaiming the Gateway. To really grasp the psychological weight of this place, it helps to listen to JNU professor N. Kamala.
She noted that the gateway was originally intended as a jewel in the crown and a symbol of conquest and colonization. It was a structure specifically designed to look outward to impress the imperial traveler, but also to look inward, right? Projecting colonial power directly onto the Indian populace. So reclaiming it as an independent nation meant changing that inward projection. Now, what's really fascinating here is the physical swap that took place in the grounds right opposite the monument. Originally, there was this large bronze statue of King Emperor George V standing right there. But as independent India began removing British iconography, that statue was taken down. Today, it actually just sits locked away in a Public Works Department tin shed. In its place, on Republic Day in 1961, a statue of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was unveiled, placing the famed 17th century Maratha warrior hero who fought against the Mughal Empire right opposite the gateway drastically shifted the monument's entire identity. And that wasn't the only addition. A statue of Swami Vivekananda, the highly influential Indian monk who brought philosophies like Vedanta and yoga to the West, was also erected in the locality. By placing these prominent, revered Indian figures in the immediate vicinity, the area was fundamentally Indianized, effectively stripping away its purely colonial context.
Part 4. Mumbai's modern living icon.
Jump to today, and the gateway is literally synonymous with the city of Mumbai itself. It's a protected monument, but it's also a massive, buzzing gathering spot for locals, photographers, and tourists from all over. It's highly functional, too. It's surrounded by 5 active jetties, with commercial ferries constantly taking throngs of visitors out to the famous Elephanta Caves. Culturally, it's taken on beautiful new meanings. Since 2003, it has held deep significance for the local Jewish community as a site for Hanukkah celebrations, featuring the lighting of the menorah, a ritual started by Rabbi Gavriel Noah Holtzberg. However, being the beating heart of Mumbai has also meant witnessing its absolute darkest days. The gateway has been a backdrop to tragedy, including a bomb blast in a parked taxi in August 2003. Most notably, during the horrific November 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, situated just opposite the gateway, was a primary target. In the aftermath, the gateway became this powerful focal point for the city's grief and resilience, hosting a massive solidarity march in December 2008. It routinely serves as a site for spontaneous public protests, proving that it really is a true town square for the people of Mumbai. So the crucial point here is that a monument with this much significance desperately needs to be protected for the future. In 2019, recognizing the wear and tear from saline sea deposits and just general time, tech companies Seagate and Cyark embarked on an incredible digital preservation mission. They use cutting-edge technology. We're talking terrestrial laser scanning or LiDAR, aerial drone surveys, and complex photogrammetry to record literally every single square centimeter of the monument. All this data is used to create photoreal 3D models, ensuring that any future physical reconstruction work is perfectly mathematically informed. We've covered a whole century of history in this explainer today, starting from a cardboard cutout all the way to a digitized 3D marvel. But I want to leave you with this final thought. How does a monument built explicitly for conquerors transform into the beloved symbol of a free, independent nation? I think it shows us that architecture is never just stone and mortar. Its meaning depends entirely on who is walking through its arches. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.